Tell me what you see in me.
Hey there. It's been a while. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexis if it's your first time here. In today's video, at this point you've already read the title, so you already know that I'm pregnant. I swear, I'm literally like slowly telling people like every day. I just really even told my job but this has been a journey, y'all. This whole experience has been a journey, and I'm just so happy and so excited to finally be able to share it with you here online, because a lot of why I haven't been here has been because of this situation. And now that I can finally talk about it, I'm just so happy and so excited to finally share my journey with you and what has been going on behind the scenes. So without further ado, let's get started. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. All right, so this is my second time filming this video, and I'm glad I accidentally deleted the footage. That's how long it's been since I've actually recorded a video, because I accidentally deleted the footage, which is something I never do. But I'm glad I did that, because I realized it was a lot of stuff that when I was talking the first time I left out on. This time I have my little baby folder here, so I can like go through and talk about some of the terms that I think I missed last video. So yeah, let's get into it. Whew, y'all. So I found out that I was pregnant. Well, we found out that we were pregnant back in August. It was a journey before that, kind of like a short journey before that, trying to get pregnant, because we had already decided that we wanted to get pregnant and really do this thing, you know, have kids. And before we did, just to kind of talk about like how I found out, I had been off birth control almost like a month, and I had went to see my doctor, talked to her about like all these things, like what I wanted to do. And she was like, okay, well, you know, first if you're gonna do this, get off birth control or whatever. And I had already knew that. So by the time I went to her like early August, I had already been off birth control. So it was kind of just like, where am I at, and like how long should this take when I went to her. So talking to her, she was just like, I told her like, hey, I had been off for this long now, about a month, and I still hadn't gotten my cycle, and I still hadn't gotten pregnant yet, which was weird because I never went this long without having a cycle. Like I always have one. And this is definitely getting deep, a lot of transparency here, because I feel like this happens to a lot of women and they don't talk about it. But I'm trying to create this world where you talk about things even when they're uncomfortable to talk about. So yes, I hadn't had my cycle since June, and I wasn't pregnant yet, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. So when I went back to the doctor in August, it was to talk to her about like why hadn't I gotten my cycle, but I was still doing birth control until after a month later, and then I stopped birth control and I still hadn't gotten my cycle. So it was like 2 months with no cycle, a month off of birth control. So my body was all messed up. So when I ended up talking to that doctor that I've been going to for a while, she just didn't, in my opinion, she just was just like, okay, we'll just give him more time. And in my head, I was just like, ugh, she didn't seem as concerned as I needed her to be. So I ended up just doing more research. I feel like, you know, when you're unhappy with what your doctor is telling you or what you're saying, find another one. There's millions of doctors out here. So that's kind of how I felt about it. And then I kind of wanted to find like a doctor that was like African-American, because it was really important to me to figure out what was going on. And like I said before, my doctor wasn't really going into details, and we had ran these tests, like a few tests, and everything came back normal, but she wasn't like trying to help me through this process. So I ended up finding this doctor through my insurance, and it was crazy because she was able to take me in the same day that I called, and I went in and saw her, and she was just so helpful about like what was going on. She was like, okay, well, if you want to get pregnant, you need to do this. I'm gonna put you on this, and then that is gonna get you to where you want to be. She prescribed me something called progesterone since I wasn't having cycles. And so she was like, okay, we'll put you on progesterone for 7 days. You'll take progesterone for 7 days, then you'll flip over to this other pill that I don't know why I didn't look up the name of it, but it was supposed to be, it was a pill that'll help you like pretty much when you're ovulating. It'll help you pretty much increase your chances of getting pregnant. That's all it pretty much did. And so she pretty much gave me the outline, which I thought was very helpful, because again, when you're a person, when you're a woman trying to get pregnant, like you've already, like if you're like me, you have your mind set on something. And this is why I said, like, the last doctor didn't feel where I was coming from, so I found another one. Because when I went to this one, she was like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, you're gonna take this for 7 days, and then boom, it should happen. And if not, then we're gonna, you know, try something else, and we're gonna have to look into, like, and run more tests to see why is your cycle not coming, is all this stuff not happening. So to me, that felt like someone concerned about what was going on. And from there, I did what she said. So I started on the progesterone, took it for 7 days. After 7 days, I had not had a cycle, which I thought was still crazy. I'm like, girl, where is this cycle? Like, where is this cycle? So I couldn't figure out where the cycle was. Still no period, still from what I knew, not pregnant. And I'm just like, what's going on? So I called the doctor back, and she's like, yeah, you're gonna need to, she's like, we probably need to just prescribe you progesterone for 10 more days. I mean, for 10 days this time, and then just see where that goes. And so I talked to her on the phone. She was like, okay, we're gonna prescribe you for 10 days. I hung up with her. One of her nurses called me back, and she was like, well, before you do that, the doctor wants you to come back and take a pregnancy test real quick, just to make sure before we put you on progesterone again, you're not pregnant. Okay, so I went back in the middle of the day, just stopped what I was doing, and I went to her office to take the test. Well, come to find out, she's like, girl, you're pregnant. I'm like, girl, look, ooh, this is just too much for me. I swear, y'all, I stood in that office and I was very shocked, because not, like, in my mind, in all of the little knowledge that I ever knew about, like, getting pregnant, it was always like, you have a period, you have ovulation days, like, all this stuff is supposed to happen for you to get pregnant. I did not know that it can happen and you not have a cycle for like 2 months. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like 1 in a million, maybe it's just me. I do not know, but that is what happened to me. Like, I didn't go through the normal process that pretty much all of my friends have been through of like, yeah, I had just got my period, and all the days later I had, you know, did the do, and then all this stuff happened. It was like, yeah, none of that happened to me. So it was really weird for me, and I really couldn't pinpoint like what day of which day was like the day where it happened, or like conception day, because which was really important, because when you're trying to figure out how many weeks you are, and you're going and you're actually taking like the little stick test, it's really hard to pinpoint. So after that, she's like, okay, well, we need to do an ultrasound to kind of see like how far along you are. And then we're also, we're gonna do an ultrasound to see how far along you are. So the very next day I went to do an ultrasound. Ultrasound came back, there was nothing there. And it was because the fetus was way too small at that point to be able to see. So she was like, well, let me do a blood test just to make sure that the stick test we took was accurate. Now, by this point, I had already took like 3-4 sticks, and all of them came back pregnant. So I knew something had to be there, but I was really shocked that the ultrasound came back with nothing. I didn't know like that if you were pregnant, you just couldn't see anything. And they did both like on top of the stomach and also vaginal. So it was like, I was really scared at that point. So she had me take the blood test. Blood test came back very positive. My HCG levels were up, and so I took the test. I took the blood test, and then she was like, well, we need to take it in like 2 or 3 more days to make sure the levels are going up and we're not having any issues. So I went back in a few more days to take another test, and the HCG levels were continuing to go up. So it was official that I was pregnant, which was very exciting, because again, like, I was very worried with that whole period, with that whole cycle thing of like, what was going on with my body. My main concern at first was like, what was going on with my body? Like, I think that was stressing me out more, was because I didn't know what was going on. It was just very weird for me, because out of all the years I've had one, it has never taken me this long to be able to, like, you know, go through like the monthlies. Like, what? So, and mind you, I was eating the same, like all this stuff was the same. So I just didn't understand, exercising the same, all these things were the same, and still my body was just thrown off. So I don't know, still to this day, it was nothing but God. Fast forward to after we like officially confirmed it. So after we officially confirmed it, she was like, well, we need to wait at least like 2 weeks so we can kind of see something, because the ultrasound is still coming back with nothing. So at that 2-week appointment, I went back and we were able to see like a little itty bitty little thing. But in that appointment, we also saw, and let me get my paperwork, because I want to be very clear. In that appointment, we found there was a small subchorionic hemorrhage that was sitting outside of the uterus and like kind of like right in between like the placenta, like right there, which is, if you've never heard what what a subchorionic hemorrhage is, or hematoma is, it's pretty much like a blood clot that sits like in front. And so that right there kind of caused some like alert, because either what they say about these things is that either they just go away, or or it can cause issues with the pregnancy and cause you not to be able to carry. So, you know, right then and there I was already worried, because, you know, like I had just found out pregnant. Like, no one wants to lose, you know, their baby. Like it was a very scary time for me. And mind you, y'all, I've been going through school and all that this whole time, so having to deal with both of those, it was a lot. But anyway, so yeah, so we had they saw the subchorionic hemorrhage, and so pretty much the doctor just wanted to kind of like watch it. Not only did they find the subchorionic hemorrhage, but they also found some cysts on the ovaries, and then they found out that I had fibroids. So it was a lot going on in my body that we just kind of had to be very careful. My doctor was just pretty much telling me like, hey, just be very careful. These are like, we don't want anything to like happen. Just take it easy at this time. So I had to pretty much slow down life, like, and a lot of stuff that I was doing, because I was so scared at the time and I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, let me just take it a little bit easy. I was still going to work and stuff like that, but I was terrified the whole time. So after that appointment, I swear it wasn't even a week later, that subchorionic hematoma hemorrhaged out. Like one day I was just laying there hanging out, I think it was a Sunday, and all of a sudden I go to the restroom regularly, and all of a sudden like this big thing, like when I say it was about the size of my hand, just falls out. I right then and there just knew I was having a miscarriage. Like I just knew that was happening to me. So a very scary moment for us. I'll end up going to the ER that night, and pretty much they were telling me that they did an ultrasound, they did everything, a lot of blood, and they pretty much said like, hey, you're having you pretty much had a threatened miscarriage, or like you pretty much had a threatened miscarriage. Didn't have, the baby's still there, everything's still good, but you did have one, and you just have to, like, you know, we don't know if it's gonna survive or not. We're just gonna keep watching it. So it was very disheartening, because you're in the emergency room and they really just have nothing. Like it was like no compassion behind it. It was like, yeah, like, oh yeah, the results came back after sitting there for hours. Yeah, you had a threatened miscarriage. Mind you, while I'm there, it's like I'm dealing with all this stuff happening to my body, like blood, all this type of stuff. I mean, I can go into detail for the women that want me to go into detail, but if you've ever had it, or if you've ever heard of it, it is the most terrifying moment in your life, because you just literally have to let it finish, you know. And I thought it was finished when it happened to me at home, but no, it was still a lot more to come. And you know, I just, you know, I was just terrified. So that happened. I went home. Right a day or two later, I went to see my doctor. No, I think I called my doctor, and she was just like, if it stops bleeding, then if you stop bleeding, then that's a good sign. The problem, the concern was that if I continued bleeding or not. And so I had always, I don't know when I had started just having like spotting issues, but I think it was before, it might have been before the hemorrhage, but I know for sure it was definitely after the hemorrhage, where I just did have like a lot of light spotting, and it would like come, it would like, yeah, it was like a just light spotting. And so when I talked to the doctor, she was like, we just want to make sure that it's not like a lot, because if it's a lot and you're filling up like your opinion lines, your pad, then that's the problem. But if it's just little, then you're fine. Mind you, it was going away, like it'll go away for like half a day, and then by the end of the day it would be back. So it's just a lot of like trying to get through this moment in time, if I had to like sum it up. So after going back to the doctor, this, like, I don't forgot what that timeline was when I went back to the doctor, but when I went back to the doctor, they still saw the hematoma there. And so they were pretty much just telling me the same thing at that point. And at that point, I just kind of became numb, because I had gotten through it the first time, and I was just like, well, as long as this doesn't happen again, and I'm fine. But it did end up happening again, but it was just like a smaller version of it. So instead of it being like as big as my hand, it was like a little bit smaller. But it stopped. I had completely stopped bleeding right after that. So it was fine. I just was kept being told to like take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. So that's just pretty much what I did. I was still spotting every day, every day I was still spotting, just hoping and praying for that to stop, because that is super annoying. Like, it's one thing to have like a whole cycle and then just be done with it, but it's another thing to like continuously go through this every day and then wonder like, is this gonna happen again and again and again? And so yeah, anyway, so I ended up having to switch doctors because the doctor that I was going to, although I loved her and I love her, she didn't deliver. So I ended up having to find another doctor that actually delivered. And it was really important to me when doctor searching, and I feel like every woman out there, when you're looking for a doctor, take your time and find a good one. Like, your doctor does not have to be your OBGYN. You can go out there and do your research and find a good doctor, because I feel like when you're going to an OBGYN in your years before pregnancy, it's just like to you, you know, like, you like, I don't care, like, they good, they're cool, they do their little pap every year, they're fine. But when it comes to someone that's going to deliver your child, and this is coming from me because I'm a first-time mom, of course, it's really important as to who that doctor is. I don't think you should just pick anybody. I think you should do your research. So that is what I did, especially being that the doctor that I did love, she had just moved to Texas, so she hadn't gotten her credentials to deliver yet, but she, of course, she had her own doctor's office and all that stuff. But I didn't know it was a separate process to be able to go inside of a hospital and be able to deliver. So although she helped me through the early days of like my pregnancy, I was gonna have to transition at a point. So I ended up finding this doctor that was well recommended. She is been in the game a very long time, and you know, although when I go see her it takes hours to get to see her, it is well worth it because she knows what she's talking about. And all the concerns that I had, by the time I ended up going to see her, which was like, I think like I was like 10 weeks at that point, because I had to get on like the waiting list. I had to get accepted by her first, and then I had to get on like a waiting list. Oh, then I had to like get scheduled, and the wait was like weeks out. By the time that happened, like a lot of the worries that I had like completely cleared up, and although it was still like it was still spotting, it was just like, I went in feeling a little bit better than I was weeks ago. So when I talked to her, she just made it seem like, okay, we're just gonna continue watching it, come back in a few weeks and stuff like that. I mean, her main concern for me was the fibroids and the cyst on the ovaries, because those can cause complications too. My concern was honestly the bleeding and then potentially having a threatened miscarriage again. But her concern was like the fibroids and stuff. It's just like she was concerned, but like, we're just gonna keep watching it. So she completely soothed over all of my worries, and you know, I felt great after leaving that appointment. So after that, I went back like a few weeks later, and in that first appointment I was able to do the ultrasound. I was able to see the baby, and when I say the baby was way bigger than it was when it was like when I had seen it weeks ago. It was like actually like arms, legs, and like it was like a little baby human like at this point, which was amazing. So yeah, so went to that appointment, went back a few weeks later, and a few weeks later, by the grace of God, by the time I went back to see her, all the bleeding had stopped. I was back to normal and I was fine. And when they did my ultrasound, they found no subchorionic hemorrhaging or hematoma. She was like, it's gone. And I'm like, excuse me. Well, they saw that the first time, and so, but I was still kind of spotting, and so she was just like, okay, well, we just need this to clear up, and then we should be out of the threatened area. And so when I went back the next time, I was able to tell her like the bleeding had stopped, and she was like, okay, well, this is where we were trying to get to. We are in good spirits now. So that is where we're at right now. We're continuing to always watch, like I said before, the fibroids and the cysts, because they can grow. The whole concern is that you don't want to take up space of the baby. So, and they sit on the outside, but you know, because I do have those things, I do have from time to time like pains, unusual pains and stuff, but it's nothing that like stops me from doing anything. At this point, I'm used to them. After dealing with implantation cramps, I can deal with anything at this point. So just maybe not labor, but I can deal with a lot at this point. So I'm very happy that, you know, I'm just able to say like, yeah, we're pregnant. Like outside of all that journey and everything that I've been through, I am just so thankful and grateful that I'm even able to talk to you guys about this today. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Like I said, it was nothing but God through this whole process. And I told you all this today not to like, just to be very transparent about the things that just women go through. I feel like when I was going through this experience, there wasn't a lot of information online, and there wasn't a lot of forums that were recent for me to talk to, for me to like for me to ask questions, for me to just feel some sense of it's going to be okay. I did find women that were going through the same thing, but like no one just gave like the full story like I just did for you here today. So that being said, if you have any questions about fibroids, about a cyst, about subchorionic hemorrhaging, hematomas, please ask. And hey, when I go to the doctor, she always asks me to ask questions. And so as I'm continuing to learn, like I said, there's not much research that you'll find that won't scare the crap out of you. I feel like because I've been through this process, I can honestly say like you can get through it, that there's a lighter side, especially with the hematoma. That put me in a place where I was just like, oh my God, like I didn't want to stay in too long. Like I didn't want to do anything. And the crazy thing about it is that they still cannot pinpoint what makes it happen. Like it just happens. And so that's the scary part about it, because you don't know what you could be doing at the time. You could be sitting in the bed like I was and on a Sunday and it happens to you. So it's really weird. And it's you know, everybody goes through, I mean, people do go through it, and you know, some people just have very, you know, great pregnancies. But the good part to it is that I didn't have to go through any morning sickness. That's one thing I didn't have to experience. All the other scary stuff, but I didn't have to experience morning sickness. Yeah, I just experienced very bad implantation cramps. Like I just knew that my stomach was just about to explode. It was very bad. And a lot of that also came from like the fibroids and stuff too. I am being told that those will cause me pain throughout the pregnancy, but I feel like based off of what I've been through, I could take a lot. Like I've been through some stuff. So yeah, that is my story. If you want me to go in detail, I feel like I've been in detail, but I want to start sharing my experience with you and just kind of what I'm going through in this journey. This is a new journey for me. So if you're interested, definitely hit that subscribe button, like, comment, all that, because we have so much to talk about here about just being a first-time mom, pregnancy, you know, like it's a lot, and I'm preparing for a lot. So life is changing for me and I want to involve my channel in it. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll see you later. Bye.